I wish somebody had told me to take more risks in life. You see, the biggest risk is not taking a risk at all. And here's what I mean by that. In today's world, the cost of living is at an all time high. Maybe 30 years ago, you could follow the script, you could follow the system, you could follow the quote unquote the pathway to success. This is what the system will tell you is the right way to live life. It's to go to school, it's to get a degree of some sort. Then you can get a job that you're going to end up working for the next 40 or so years, and then you'll just retire. And hopefully, you'll have some retirement funds that you can live off of. But if not, then you'd have to continue working. And 30 years ago, this type of lifestyle or this quote unquote plan, it was feasible. It was something that the average person could do. And you could live a pretty decent lifestyle, if I do say so myself. You could have a family of maybe two to three, four kids, maybe. You could have a white picket fence, a house that you can call your own. You could have a vehicle or two, maybe, and your family could go on a couple of vacations. You'll go to work, yes, but you'll have your days off, and hopefully the weekend will be off for you, where you can spend some time with your family, and everything will be fine and dandy. But fast forward 30 years to 2025, and that is no longer a reality. The reality now is that if you are not actively a high earner, maybe if you're not a doctor, an engineer, or a lawyer, or someone that is making upwards of six figures from your job, and I wouldn't even consider those six figures to be making much of a dent. It really depends on like where you live exactly. Like I live in Toronto, so the cost of living is pretty high here. But let's say you live in these states. If you live in I don't know, like New York, LA, California, those more popular states, yeah, six figures probably not gonna cut it, especially if you're living closer to the city. But you could definitely do you some good if you're living in some more rural areas. I don't know any off the top of my head in the States, but here in Canada, like you live maybe 30 minutes an hour outside of Toronto, you can find a decent place, but still, the cost of living is just at an absolute high. And it really doesn't matter what you do. You need a side hustle. That's really the point I'm making here. You need a side hustle. You need something that is generating you income, maybe whether from investments, maybe you have your own business, maybe you're offering a service. I don't know, something that generates you money outside of your 9 to 5, and that's really the ticket out. So what does that require you to do? It requires you to take risk. So day you could get away with just having a 9 to 5, but now you need to take that risk. You need to bet on yourself. You need to learn these skills. You need to invest into yourself and maybe start a business. I don't know what the pathway is for you, but at the end of the day, if you're not actively pursuing or actively learning or actively trying to better yourself, and quote unquote betting on yourself, you're going to end up living what I deem to be a pretty miserable life. Again, your definition of life or what your dream life looks like is completely, it's all subjective. It's up to you, really. But in my dream life, working for someone else and building their dream is not necessarily something that I want to do an extended period of time. I have nothing against working a 9 to 5 to as like a stepping stone, build up the capital so that you can go off and venture off into your own endeavors. That's probably what I look at a 9 to 5 as. Like I recently went through some job interviews. I don't know if you guys seen my previous video where I was talking about the job market and how bad it is right now, but eventually I ended up getting a position at a company that was decent enough for me to take. Yeah, it's not a full remote job, and I do have to work like a pretty shitty shift, which is like the 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. in order to be able to work from home. The fact that my mom is bedridden, so that's really the only reason I would prefer remote work, is so that I can take care of her. But yeah, with that being said, I just recently got that job, and it kind of kills me that took all this risk in my day trading endeavor, and it didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. But I'm still optimistic looking forward. Let me actually backtrack a bit. Let me explain to you guys what had happened. So I had a bunch of money saved up, and then I eventually got laid off and got a severance package. And during that time, I figured, you know what, let me just go full-time trading, because one, I need to take care of my bedridden mom, and two, is really my passion. It's really what I've been trying to wrap my head around. I've been trying to master trading for the last, let's say, like 3 or 5 years now, and I'm still learning. Still a student of the game. But I figured, the fact that I did get laid off last year, let me just give it a go. and it didn't go out the way I planned. You know, ended up facing some obstacles, and now I have to go get a job again. But I don't care, because guess what? I'm gonna stack up my chips once again, and I'm gonna roll the dice. I'm gonna go all in again on myself. You know, bet on myself again and again. It's like, rather do this and fail 1,000 times than to just give up and just, you know, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna work a 9 to 5, and this is it. Like, it's not me. And listen, I have nothing against people that do want to do that in life. There's plenty of people that love their job and they love the security it provides, and they love the fact that you just got to go in, do this, they get an income, and then they, you know, their free time they spend it doing the things that they like. Me personally, I am just not someone that I'm not someone that can take orders from people, if that makes sense. You don't really find that to be too fun. I don't find that to be fun at all, actually. So, type of person I am, and let's circle back to taking risks. Now, there are plenty of risks that you can take. Like, see this with the younger generation. I'm a part of Gen Z. I'm actually 28 years old, but a lot of people within my generation, even younger, even older, really, everyone's kind of getting into like the social media game. I know this is like the new thing. A lot of people are starting up YouTube. A lot of people are doing Instagram, TikTok, whatever the case may be. A lot of people are opening up their own businesses. Everyone's taking risks because they've realized that it's no longer feasible to just work that 9 to 5. And you know what? It's not even something that's attractive to people to work the 9 to 5. A lot of people would rather just work for themselves. I do think that a lot of people have skewed perceptions on this whole social media or like, you know, business. People might think that it's quote unquote easier than working a 9 to 5. I don't think so. I actually think 9 to 5 is easier because starting up your own business, or you're trying to learn a skill, is actually much harder, because now you become your own boss. And our whole lives we've been conditioned to the authority. So during school, you know, we had to listen to the teacher. We weren't even able to go to the washroom without raising our hand and asking, which has now ingrained in our minds the fact that you need to quote unquote report to someone at all times throughout school. So yeah, you got about 14 years, 16 years of schooling where you're listening to somebody, and then you enter the workforce and you're still listening to somebody. But then when you decide, or if you decide to take the risk and work on your own projects, now you become responsible for the results. So inherently, when you get that freedom at first, a lot of people can misuse it. I know this is the case when I first went to university, because during high school, you still had to ask to go to the washroom. But when you're in university, you don't have to do that. You don't even care if you show up. So what did I do? I stopped showing up. Now I did end up getting the degree, but it's just an example of how things become much harder, or you need to actually be serious when you're taking that risk, and you need to hold yourself accountable, and you need to maintain discipline while pursuing your own endeavors. That's about it for the rant today, guys. I appreciate you guys checking in. Please leave a like if you guys like the video. Comment down below any of your thoughts. What do you guys think about what I said? Are you guys personally taking any risks in life? I know it was a bit of a longer rant, but you know, been on my mind, and I'm sure you guys can add to this conversation in the comments below. But it's been a pleasure. Thank you guys for watching. Stay frosty, my friends. Peace.